What would you do if you realized your front door had been locked from the outside? But you were the only living soul within a 3-day trek through the snow. Pekka Ansio was a veteran of the Finnish elite forces. A man trained to breeze where others simply die. But the Lapland ice decided that Pekka no longer belonged to this world. The police arrived 3 days later. The food on the table was still warm. The TV was humming with static. The only exit was sealed tight with an iron bolt from the outside, without a single human fingerprint. There were no footprints in the snow. None. Pekka had vanished from inside a locked wooden box, leaving behind only the heat of his last cup of coffee. And a silence that, according to the officers, felt heavy. Finnish forensic experts are no strangers to extreme isolation. But what they discovered inside Pekka Ansio's cabin wasn't in any Helsinki criminalistics manual. The first contradiction was the door. A heavy, forged iron latch that can only be engaged from the outside. There were no signs of forced entry, no scratches on the metal, no tool marks. If Pekka stepped out to check the generator, how did the door lock itself behind him? And the most disturbing part, why were there no footprints? The fresh snow surrounding the structure was a blank diary. No boot tracks, no drag marks, no sign of a struggle. According to traditional physics, Pekka would have had to float out of that cabin. But the real horror began when technicians analyzed the emergency radio and the wristwatch he'd left on the table. The digital watch was frozen at 10:43 p.m. on January 14th, the exact moment distant neighbors reported hearing a sharp, dry crack echoing from the forest. The radio, which should have been dead, was emitting a continuous oscillation below 20 hertz. Below the threshold of human hearing, the kind of frequency you don't hear with your ears, but feel vibrating directly in your chest. When experts used forensic light on the floor, they found something that defied biology. Barefoot prints. Human sweat stains on the wooden floorboards, tracing Pekka's path from the armchair to the door. But the marks didn't stop at the threshold. They kept going, climbing up the wooden wall at a 90-degree angle, vanishing into the solid ceiling, where there was no exit, no skylight, no ventilation, nothing. Nordic police are pragmatic. But the sergeant in charge, a man with 20 years of Arctic experience, asked to leave the cabin after just 10 minutes. He claimed the air inside tasted like old metal. If you're listening to this story with headphones right now, you might feel the same weight in your chest they did. The sensation that the silence wasn't an absence of sound, but something that was listening to their breath. That was when the first file classified as an atmospheric anomaly was opened. They discovered Pekka wasn't the first to vanish at those exact coordinates. In 1974 and 1992, 2 other men, also veterans, also isolated, vanished the same way. And in both cases, the last thing they left behind was an audio recording the police kept off the official records for decades. Until now. The tape found in Pekka's radio shouldn't have contained anything but static. But what the sound technicians in Helsinki isolated was a nightmare in the form of a frequency. On the audio, you can hear the heavy thud of Pekka's boot against the wood, the sharp click of the door being pulled shut, and then silence. Not the silence of nature. It's a sonic vacuum. The kind of absence that the recording itself seems unable to sustain. To this day, Pekka Ansio's case remains an open wound in Nordic bureaucracy. There are no suspects. There are no fingerprints. Officially, there is no crime. But for specialists in fringe phenomena, the answer lies in what they call the geometry of despair. The theory is as simple as it is impossible. In certain parts of the Arctic, where human isolation reaches a critical mass, matter ceases to behave in a predictable way. Not because something supernatural intervenes, but because space itself, deprived of any human reference for long enough, reverts to an ancient logic. A logic that was never meant to be inhabited by us. The most disturbing detail emerged months later, when the cabin was finally demolished by direct government order. Between the heavy ceiling beams, exactly where Pekka's bare footprints vanished into the solid wood, workers found his military watch. But it hadn't just fallen into a gap. The metal of the watch and the fiber of the wood had fused at a molecular level, as if the cabin's structure had tried to digest Pekka's belongings. The glass was intact, but the hands weren't turning clockwise. They were oscillating frantically from side to side, as if they were desperately searching for a time that no longer exists. If you ever find yourself in an isolated structure in the north, and the silence outside feels too dense, do not go out to check the noise. Do not leave the door just slightly ajar, because the ice doesn't just want your body, it wants your geometry. Stories like Pekka's exist because the world is far larger than our instruments can measure. If this case found a place in your mind today, consider joining this investigation unit. Your subscription isn't just a number, it's a sign that you, too, refuse to accept silence as an answer. Share this video with someone you know wouldn't survive a single night in Lapland. And let us know in the comments, do you believe Pekka is still in there, trapped in a layer of reality we simply don't have eyes to see? The next report is already open. In the abandoned mines of Sweden, 200 feet below ground, miners stopped working in 1987. Not because the ore ran out, but because whatever was at the bottom of the tunnel had begun to perfectly mimic the sound of their tools. Click now on the video appearing on your screen, if you have the courage to hear what comes next. Thank you for the company. And remember, what you ignore might be listening to you. 7 seconds later, Pekka's voice emerges. He isn't screaming. He's confused. He whispers only 3 words. The ceiling, it changed. Immediately after, a sound like tearing paper, but on a scale that belongs to no household object. As if The very fabric of space inside the cabin had been stretched beyond its limit. Investigators cross-referenced this audio with the 1974 case. Back then, the missing man had left a diary. The last sentence written was, "The snow outside has begun to rise, and the door is now where the window used to be." In Lapland, the winter guides have a name for what happens at these coordinates. But they refuse to speak it in the open air. They only say that certain parts of the forest stop recognizing human geometry. That space, in enough cold and isolation, decides what belongs to it. And what no longer does. Pekka Ansio, the soldier trained to survive entire armies, had no warning. When the police brought elite tracking dogs to the cabin, the animal's behavior was the final blow to the investigation. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the dogs didn't bark. They didn't growl. They simply lay down on the floor and began to howl at the ceiling. Exactly at the point where Pekka's barefoot prints had vanished into the solid wood. The sergeant understood in that moment. Pekka didn't leave the cabin. He was moved into a layer of it that doesn't exist on any map. A layer where time doesn't flow forward, but in circles. The official search was closed within 10 days. Cause of death, non-existent. Body, never found. But a month later, a new detail emerged to haunt the Helsinki Police Department. Pekka's emergency radio, kept in sealed evidence in the capital, turned itself on at 3 in the morning. The officer on duty reported hearing the sound of someone trying to breathe in an oxygenless environment, followed by the metallic sound of an iron latch being engaged from the outside.